Hello, mate！ 欢迎收听 Excuse 英国腔。
Just by standing close to one of the portals, you would be able to see different countries that have the same portal installed in one of the cities. So now, if you are in Vilnius, you can only see Lublin. But if we added Kiev or if we added Taipei, we could switch them. So 1 minute I see Lublin portal, and another minute I see Taipei portal, and Lublin sees Kiev portal. So it's a connection that requires an even number of portals installed, and this is the plan we are trying to execute at the moment.
Let's transcend a sense of separation and be the pioneers of a united planet. From Lithuania with Love reads the back of pOrtal, an electronic circular public installation that is currently standing in front of Vilnius railway station in Lithuania, with the other one in Lublin, Poland. Imagine you can wave your hand to people from another country in real time through a street installation. That is not in a fiction film. Rather, it is an idea put into reality, thanks to Benediktas Gylys Foundation. pOrtal is to unite humanity, not least in the very moment of global public health crisis. Hi, Benediktas. How are you?
I'm good, Mr. Cha Yu.
Good to know that. How is Vilnius now?
It's quite pleasant. It's in the middle of summer. It's plus 25 degrees. The sun is shining. Everyone is relaxed, and it's a really pleasant day to be around.
It sounds like we cannot ask for more. Could you please introduce Benediktas Gylys Foundation to the audience?
Yeah, it's a foundation established 8 years ago by myself in order to support and create different science and art initiatives. For example, 4 years ago, we organized the biggest hardware inventors competition in Lithuania. And 3 years ago, we donated around 700 microbit pocket-sized codable computers to the children from rural areas of our country. And also, we have recently published a book called Lithuania 2120, where we interviewed around 40 of our country's thought leaders and discussed what will Lithuania look like in 100 years. So this is just like 30% of the project, so that you could get the idea about our projects. And also, like 8 years ago, I was a successful internet businessman, but I was lacking purpose. I was spending my time close to a computer in a tiny apartment, and I was looking for a tool for me to give meaning and for me to help meet individuals, because I was feeling that just life is passing me by and I am just stuck with my internet companies, and I needed a way out, and I saw it as a tool, and it looks like that it really helped me to find the purpose and meaning in my existence.
And recently, you've also got another project which is quite popular. Can you just explain pOrtal, your new project, briefly with us?
Yeah, I was traveling around the world, and I was seeing lots of suffering of all life forms, be it humans or animals or plants, be it famine, wars, or different social problems. And I felt that it's not the lack of brilliant scientists, it's not a lack of knowledge, technology, or resources, but it's tribalism, and it's our worldview that is limited to our national borders that are responsible for this great suffering. And I wanted to create something that would show that we are all together flying on a tiny spaceship called Earth, and we are all inseparably connected. There is no escape from that, and we need to live like one species in order for this tiny spaceship to continue flying, this is the only way. And I felt that it would be meaningful to create a project like this. Also, I had some spiritual experiences 5 years ago where I felt that I'm connected to all living organisms, and I felt that it also pushed me into trying to express the feeling to people around me. And the idea came just when I was having lunch with my cousin, and randomly she asked me some questions about what does Vilnius need to get like 1 million tourists visited more. And I was like, oh, we should build this portal. We should build a sculpture that would erase all the limits. And she was an architect, and she's still an architect, and she loved the idea. She brought it to her office and talked it over with her colleagues. And this is like what's the base launch pad of the portal idea. And it was already 5 years ago. It was 2016.
Wow. So, you just spoke of Vilnius, and I guess for some Taiwanese, it could be quite rarely heard. And to be honest, it's actually the capital city of Lithuania.
Yes.
Just to share with the audience, I personally went to Vilnius, Lithuania in 2015. Actually, that was the only country I visited in the Baltic states. And, funny enough, I had a wonderful time there. I remember Vilnius is an incredibly beautiful capital city with rich history. So could you please let us know briefly, just how will you describe Lithuania?
No, that's a good question. It's interesting since it's such a basic question, but I have never imagined how would I answer it. So Lithuania is a small country in Eastern Europe. It has a population similar to Taipei City, which is close to 3 million people, and it has a size of 64,000 square kilometers. It's close to the Baltic Sea,
right?
And it's a beautiful country. And I should also mention that we were crippled by the Soviet occupation around 8 years ago, and we were occupied for 5 decades, and we still have this trauma. And you can see it sometimes if you look deeper into our common problems, what we have as a society. But also it's a really thriving country, and I'm really proud about the people of Lithuania, because 30 years ago we were the first country to break away from Soviet Union, and we started with nothing.
Wow.
And now if you travel around Europe, you could just, it's very difficult to see that some differences between Western Europe, like BVP or Lithuanian BVP. We are really a thriving community. We are hungry to grow.
Yeah.
We are hungry to achieve more. And I really enjoy living here, because when I was a teenager, I remember watching lots of Hollywood movies, and I felt so inferior. I felt that life in the United States is so much better, and life in Western Europe is also so much better. And I was looking at all these magazines, all these cars, and I felt that my country is inferior. But now, since I was able to travel around the world, to wake up and feel like I have just finished a pack of cigarettes in Beijing, because it was so difficult to breathe, and the feeling was like this, or to be close to one of the terrorism attacks in London, or to carry 5-liter drinking water bottles back to your home because the tap water is undrinkable. You start appreciating what we have here. We have lots of nature. We have clean water. It's a very safe country. Like basically no crime is happening, and I'm really happy to be part of of our country. And also, if I lived in London, the feeling would be like, oh, it was a good country, it was a good city, now it's a good city, and it will be probably a good city in the next decade. But in Lithuania and Vilnius, you are a part of constant evolution. Like when I was a child, everything started, and now I feel like I could be a part of this growth, of this evolution. And I believe this is one of the fundamental reasons of human happiness, is to be part of some bigger growth, bigger evolution.
Yes.
And I feel like I don't feel inferior to other countries anymore, and I feel really blessed that I was able to be born in this country of Lithuania.
You sound very inspiring, because I think it happens to many people from relatively less developed countries. When we see the contrast by visiting more developed countries, we might tend to think, well, where are we as a nation? What happened to our country? But if you look more closely, you might actually find out that actually my country is rich in history. My country has some great values. You know, our ancestors, our parents, they've done their bit, and you know, so do we. And so I think in Taiwan, some people also see that differences when they travel. But quite recently, I can see more people are proud of their own identity and want to become better themselves. Speaking of, you know, beautiful country, Lithuania, I should never ignore the fact that actually recently, your government declared the donation of 20,000 AstraZeneca vaccines to Taiwan as humanitarian aid. And what's more, later this year, both our governments will set up a representative office, fostering our closer bond in many aspects. So just out of my curiosity, in your view, how is the current awareness of Taiwan in Lithuania?
We know little about Taiwan. I know that lots of intellectuals gathered to Taiwan around 50 years ago or so. We know Taipei City, but if you just try going on the street asking around, you wouldn't get lots of responses about people telling some facts about Taiwan. Maybe they would tell about that you are famous for what is the national dish? It's like tofu or
stinky tofu,
or tea, or your pearl tea.
Yeah, bubble tea.
Yeah, so maybe you would get some of those, but I'm not too sure about this. So I think we should really work on establishing our relationship more. And also, you mentioned vaccines, but also I should mention that in 2020 we received more than 100,000 of masks during the most difficult times of COVID, during just the very beginning when everyone was afraid and nobody knew what's happening, and it was a time of crisis. And Taiwan was in the headlines because it supported us with masks. So I feel lots of people are grateful for it as well, including myself.
Well, thank you for your word. I guess, you know, we should sum up. Our countries share many values. And for all that, I want to say to people of Lithuania, thank you.
And I would like to say the same to the people of Taiwan.
Right. So I think in this context, you've just mentioned pOrtal, your project, came in the spotlight. Could you tell us just how you firstly came to this initial concept of pOrtal?
I somehow felt shaken by this idea, and I had this deep feeling that it needs to be done. And lots of people doubted it. Lots of people were unsure, but I was the only believer that the idea had. And basically, it was very difficult because it was very difficult to find true professionals who could make it a reality. And we had lots of arguments. For example, the architects would say, okay, so let's take an iPhone and let's imagine the portal looks like an iPhone, just 1,000 times bigger. And the engineers would come and say, okay, sure, give us 5 million euros and we will give it a try. And engineers would come back with an idea that would look ugly to the architects. And so the engineer would leave. So another engineer would come and try to help us. And it was just like this for a couple of years, just weekly meetings. And lots of people losing enthusiasm, and it looked like we hit the game over stage for a few times, but finally we managed to find a team called Linkmenų Fabrikas. It's a branch of Vilnius Tech University, and they had their in-house designers, in-house architects, engineers, and somehow they managed to find the proper dialogue, and they came up with a concept of how it should technically work around like 2 years ago. And also after you include the pandemic, it results in 5 years 5 years of work after the initial idea was born.
On YouTube, when I first saw them stand in front of Vilnius railway station and on the other side of Poland, I was totally stunned. But honestly, what fascinated me most was the fact that it took you 5 years of preparation. You mentioned it, there must be lots of difficulties. And of course, you eventually overcame this hardship. Just briefly tell us, what are some of the most difficult aspects to it?
Thank you, Chayu, for your kind words. It was difficult because we needed to find a custom solution. Because usually, firstly, when engineers take a look at what we want to do, they say, "Oh, it's easy. We can do it in 1 month." But after, when they start getting deeper into the woods and lots of tiny details start arising, it becomes difficult because you need to protect it from vandalism. You need to protect it from minus 30 temperatures, and you need the video quality to be good enough. So lots of issues like this. And also I should mention that one portal weighs 11 tons, and the height of it is 3.4 meters. So it's very difficult to move it, and you need custom transportation solutions to move it around. So it's also one of the issues we are dealing, since our plan is to move one of the portals now, since the city in Poland was only a temporary solution. So now we want to find a city that would agree to take us permanently.
I see. So, wow, it's going to be more interesting. Speaking of installing pOrtal in other places, in other countries, just could you tell us what goals you want to achieve through these two portals now? Because I think they are, a fantastic prototype, but eventually, I guess you want to duplicate it. You want to see more installed.
Yes, it's a good question. Currently, we are working on getting a network done. Network of 10 portals is the goal that we have now. So the idea is that just by standing close to one of the portals, you could travel around the globe in like 5 minutes. 1 minute you could be in Vilnius, another minute you could be in Taipei, third minute you could be in London, fourth minute Tokyo or New York. Some African cities should be added as well. And we want people to travel in this way and to see that we are not strangers. We are all connected, and that the biggest boundaries, the biggest borders are only in our thinking, are only in our heads, in our cultural layers. And in order for us to survive, we need to start thinking that we belong to this planet, because now we are living like 99% of the planet belongs to them. It belongs to the people from the USA. It belongs to the Chinese. It belongs to Russians. And I feel careless about the planet because it doesn't belong to me. I only care about the tiny islands of Lithuania, and that's all. And this thinking is very toxic, and we are going to crash the tiny spaceship if we continue to think like this. We need a correction in our awareness, in our thinking, in order for us to survive and thrive as a human species.
Wow. So it is really pioneering because people tend to be constrained by their thinking, and we forget, and actually we ignore the most important bit, that is we all belong, to this planet, and we share one earth, so we have to protect it. And so it's just very exciting to me when I saw the concept in reality. But I want to know what happened to the citizens from both countries, Lithuania and Poland. How did they react to your installation?
It was amazing to see how people were reacting to it. I felt lots of joy inside my heart just by seeing people waving to each other or making heart shapes from their palms, or just by smiling. And sometimes you can see people who look so serious that they have never smiled or waved to anyone in their life.
Really?
But when they see pOrtal, we start waving, they start dancing, they start trying to communicate.
Wow.
And I really love to see how people are interacting. And after all these years of brainwashing done by foreign countries, because some artificially manufactured conflicts were made in order to divide and conquer the region, and we still are full of stereotypes about that Polish people are X, Lithuanian people are Y, and people just stand and they see the reality themselves. They see that they are just the same. They are the same like us.
Of course.
And they smile. They want happiness. They want peace. They want to thrive. And this is, I think, that's a game changer for the community that gathers around pOrtals. It's really a blessing to see it happening. And I feel really, really, really blessed.
I think Taiwan will be very interested in having one pOrtal locally. So I want to ask you further, have you got any plan to expand this extraordinary concept? For instance, building more pOrtals elsewhere in the world?
Yes, we are currently working on this, and we are having calls on a daily basis with countries and cities around the globe. And also I should mention that Taiwan is very high on our list, because we received lots of proposals from not only from Taipei but from other cities from Taiwan as well. And
wow.
we are in discussions, and I hope they will give fruits very soon. I would love to see a pOrtal in Taiwan. But also think the biggest issue is raising the funds, because the foundation funded the first 2 pOrtals, but we cannot afford to fund 10 pOrtals because they are very, very expensive. And also we want countries and cities to be able to support the project for at least 7 years, since we need to gather and to create a large team of people who would arrange events, who would make sure that the software and hardware are intact. So we need a large team, and also a team of around 50 people were involved manufacturing and making the first 2 pOrtals happen. So it's also not cheap to get and maintain a team of professionals. But I'm sure that we are on the right direction, and we will be able to find the partners who will be able to help us fund the expansion of the pOrtals. since
Yeah.
I believe this is a very big mission that needs to be done.
Yeah. I'm just curious, will we be able to see different cities through one portal, or just, two portals connecting two cities?
No, the idea is to connect at least 10 different cities with 10 portals. We need an even number of portals. So that just by standing close to one portal, you could travel. You could be 1 minute, you could be in New York. Another minute, you will be automatically switched to Krakow or to Warsaw. And third minute, you will be switched to Nairobi or to Melbourne in Australia. And it will be a network, so that do you understand the idea, or should I try to explain it in more clarifying way?
If you could clarify for the audience, because I guess they'll be very interested in how you explain this concept as the creator.
Yeah, so just by standing close to one of the portals, you would be able to see different countries that have the same portal installed in one of the cities. So now, if you are in Vilnius, you can only see Lublin. But if we added Kiev, or if we added Taipei, we could switch them. So 1 minute I see Lublin portal, and another minute I see Taipei portal, and Lublin sees Kiev portal. So it's a connection that requires an even number of portals installed. And this is the plan we are trying to execute at the moment.
He is Benediktas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chai. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I would like to invite all of your listeners to visit Vilnius, Lithuania.
喜欢本集访谈的内容吗？如果你是用 Apple Podcasts 收听，欢迎你为 Excuse 英国腔评价与留言，你的鼓励是我最大的动力。也欢迎你加入 Excuse 英国腔在脸书的社团，你可以直接与其他对跨文化沟通或喜欢英国的听众互动，还有机会与受访者直接的交流哦。如果你想实际支持我继续制作更多来自全球多元的访谈，也欢迎到本期介绍下的连结，请我喝杯珍奶吧。感谢收听与支持。如果你喜欢这一系列的双语访谈，并想增强英文能力，也欢迎到脸书或 IG 私讯我哦。Cheers, mate! Until next time, bye for now.